Hello everyone and welcome back. It's Hannah here from Singing Hin. I am a music teacher and I also teach guitar and ukulele, and I also play Northumbrian pipes and various other bits and pieces. So this week it's going to be a little harder to show you in practice because I can only play one instrument at a time and I don't actually have that many different instruments here with me. But what I want you to start doing is starting to try to peel away the layers of a song and start to try and listen for and identify different instruments. Now, again, if you're listening to a lot of techno pop or kind of the rave music of the 90s, that might be very difficult. If it's been overproduced, there's going to be a lot of electrical sounds in there, essentially, that are going to be difficult for you to pull apart. So if you're really struggling, go back to a good old-fashioned soft rock or good old-fashioned 1980s pop song. So what you will often find is that it will start with just a little bit of guitar and a voice, and then what you might find is the bass will join in. And what a bass will be doing quite often, now this isn't a bass, this is a guitar, my bass is on the wall, but it will be a lot lower, and what you'll find is the guitars are going to be da, 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 giving the sort of chords and giving the bulk of the sound behind the singing. And then what you'll find is the bass will be really underpinning that and really sort of scribbling an underline under those words of the notes. That could be what the bass is doing, or it might be doing a little run. So you won't be hearing the bass as much, and it will be more single notes that you're hearing generally. You might hear the drums in there, and you might also hear keyboards or piano, and there could be lots of other different things in there that you are hearing. As I say, typically with sort of modern rock or pop, you're going to hear guitars, bass, drums, possibly keyboards. If you're listening to classical music, depending on the size of the band, whether it's chamber music or a full orchestra, there are going to be a lot of different instruments. But if you want to start listening to that and working out what some of those solo instruments are, and start to think about how they sound. Do they sound reedy? Do they sound very cutting? Do they sound more like a trumpet? Because that's going to give you a hint that if it sounds a bit like a trumpet, it's going to be of the brass. If it sounds really weedy and quite windy and breathy, it could be either something from the woodwind like a flute, or it could be from the woodwind with a reed instrument that has more of a kind of buzz going on, which is the reed buzzing. But this is not so much about needing to identify the instruments unless you're really keen to do that. This is more an exercise in you starting to listen for things and pulling out different layers of that. So there's one more thing I want to talk about this week, and that is the idea of a key change. And quite often a key change is used in popular music, and it's certainly used a lot in the big ballads and in the big musical theatre numbers. And a key change is quite subtle if you don't know what you're listening to. But I'm going to sing a piece, and hopefully you're going to notice it's literally when everything sort of just it's almost like everything is picked up and moved up a little bit or moved down a little bit. It's like I've packed all of my notes into my rucksack and just lifted them up a little bit. So I'm going to sing you a song, and I'm going to change the key, and hopefully you'll pick up when it is. I'll probably give you a nod or something when it happens. So I'm going to sing you a little bit of the Lambton Worm, which is a very classic, well-known folk song here in the north about a worm, a big dragon place, a dragon. One Sunday morn, young Lambton went a-fishing in the weir. He catched a fish upon his yoke, he thought looked very queer. But whatna kind of fish it was, young Lambton couldna tell. He wasna fish to carry it home, so he hid it down the well. Wisht, lads, had your gobs, I'll tell yous all an awful story. Wisht, lads, had your gobs, and I'll tell you about the worm. New Lambton felt inclined to gan and fight in foreign wars. He joined a troop of knights that cared for neither wounds nor scars. So off he went to Palestine, where queer things soon befell, and very soon he forgot about that queer worm in the well. So did you hear in the middle there, when I paused between the verses, I did a verse, and then I did the chorus, which is the Wish the Lads Had Jacobs. And then just before I started my second verse, I paused, worked out my next note, and then I actually lifted the entire song. So I was singing the entire thing in what we call a different key. So I started at one Sunday morn, and I finished at da da. So I've moved between different keys, is essentially what I did there. And if you feel like that entire song has just been picked up and shifted up a bit, usually up a bit, sometimes down a bit, that is usually going to be a key change. So start listening for some of the subtleties, and even if you can't, you don't know what they are, if you can't give them a name, the fact that you're starting to listen for them and hear them actively is the beginning of listening to the music. We're going to put all of this in practice next week. Sadly, I'm not going to be able to play the song, but I'm going to tell you to go away and listen to it, and I'm going to give you some pointers. So until then, you guys take care, put on some music and properly listen. Take care, and I'll see you next week.